So when we look at the indeed far-right parties playing with a Muslim voting group, we of course need to place it a little bit into context. The fact that the far-right has been already showing some interest and even joining collaboration with more conservative Islamic groups is a phenomenon that has been already out there for quite some time. You have it on the more fringe side of the communities where, for instance, 4chan, the Salafi young men will be interacting with the more alt-right groups. But at the same time, you also have Russia as an example where the Russian Orthodox Church is working with Islamic institutions for the protection of conservative traditional rights. So in that sense, what we do see in Europe at the moment is more sort of a continuation of this trend. And it has probably two reasons for that. One of the aspects is, of course, that the center-right or even far-right side of the political spectrum already has several parties. And some of the parties need to distinguish themselves from the others. And in this case, taking a distance from more anti-Islamic parties is, of course, one of the ways to gain some new voter space. On the other hand, there is another trend is, of course, that far-right parties and far-right populist parties didn't really succeed in entering the coalitions. So they remained on the opposition and on the fringes. So by trying to include also the groups that they have been criticized for being too against, now is also one of the ways for them to show as if they become more inclusive, as if they become more centrist, and thereby also to present themselves as more easy to work with and to more, capable of joining the coalition or the parliament. What we do see from really accidental data, so there is still not very much of research done on this, but we do see that the major groups that support far-right parties who still remain openly anti-migration are usually young Muslim men. And in this case, indeed, it's good to ask whether Islamic identity still remains the most important identity for them, because it's usually the third or even fourth generation Muslims being born and raised in Europe and really do feel themselves as part of the European community. And for them, sometimes, indeed, the defense of gender roles or some conservative values becomes more important in their identification rather than joining the parties that very much, have the tradition of defending Muslim migrant communities, but most of the time on the left. So in this case, it's also interesting to see that the Muslim communities do feel themselves increasingly more as voters group, and at the same time there are parties also that see them as such and start catering also to their interests.